We have now a very special session which is going to be looking at the impact of cryptocurrency on the tourism industry. And we have two very special people we're going to invite to the stage, one who's taken quite a journey, and Excellence, thank you for being with us today. So it is my great pleasure to ask to this stage Balut Baji, the president of World Tourism Forum Institute, who will be the moderator of our dear, dear special VVIP, His Excellence François Hollande, the former president of France. Sir, thank you very much.
Dear guests, thank you very much. So I'm very honored to host Excellency Hollande here. Actually, this is not my first time that we are coming together with the Excellency. The first time we come together with the Excellency in Angola, in Luanda, the capital, in 2019, before the COVID started. After the COVID came, and then tourism is a bit stuck. But it's good. Now, today we are here. And we are discussing tourism, we are discussing future of tourism. So we are going to discuss with the Excellency, because he approximately served as the president in France. And Paris is the most visited destination in the world. It's on the rankings, if you compare to Spain, if you compare to US, in many years it was at the number one at the rankings. So His Excellency is going to share with us during his cabinet, during his management, his observations, and then we are going to discuss on that. Excellency, welcome to Dubai. Thank you very much. As president of such an important tourism destination such as France, His Excellency, why do you think the vertical of the job creation, investment, infrastructure, all this combined is so important for the economy of the country? So can you emphasize on that?
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames, Messieurs.
Mr. the President, ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to be with you at this forum, which mentions not only the importance of tourism in the world, but also its capacity to move to a further step with the blockchain. You said earlier that France is the first destination in the world. Almost 90 million visitors before the pandemic. 90 million visitors and almost 10% of GDP, which we get from tourism. There's also 2 million jobs in France in tourism sector, and we are proud to be the mostly visited country in the world. But we don't have the first avenue in the world in terms of tourism, because there are some stays that are very short. For example, one visitor out of 5 in France would stay 1 night only. So the challenge for tourism is to be able not only to attract many visitors, but also to make sure that such visitors, such tourists, can spend as long time as possible, and can spend also in our country. So the challenge is connected to your form, is to give more value to the stay of the tourist in our country. So it's not only a visit that will last for a few hours and visiting some monuments, but there should be the maximum of impact for the target country. So this is why we cannot be proud of being the first destination of tourism in the world, but we need to be the country that makes the highest revenue from tourism in the world.
Tourism industry has a major setbacks due to the pandemic. And now the current political situation in Europe is not helping. What is your take that why as mankind or as people we need tourism as a catalyst of peace or and not war? What is your feedback?
Actually, the sector of tourism has been affected by the pandemic, and for almost 2 years, visitors were confined, and there was a loss of revenue for countries that were the most visited. And then came the war in Ukraine, which will also affect tourism sector because there will be risks and also some expectation of risks and less travel. And this is why a blockchain can be one of the answers to that. We need to facilitate transportation, even for health precaution, and even simplification and transparency and use of all the procedures that allow us to offer guarantees to destination countries so that the person are vaccinated. All of this will be a security for the traveler and also for the country that he visits. The war in Ukraine, we will know soon probably the outcome, and its population is the mostly affected, but maybe in the aftermath of this war, which led to fear worldwide, we have, as you said, tourism is a factor of peace because it allows us to share experiences, culture, understanding of the world, to have some sort of dialogue between civilizations. And necessarily, it's a tool to make harmony and peace prevail. Tourism is also a factor that will allow growth in the emerging countries and therefore avoid phenomena linked to poverty or radicalization.
His Excellency President, obviously it's important that revenue stays within the industry. But how can a government ensure it is spread evenly around the different businesses? How the governments ensure that for the private sector?
The challenge for tourism is not only to serve the companies that are linked to the activities of hospitality and the services that the traveler is expecting, such as transportation, hotels, and visits. What we need to do is to build a sector that has effect to other sectors such as trade, handicrafts, and products that can be marketed. And here, a blockchain can be a factor of coordination of all these activities and to put them in the same application, not only for travel, not only hotels or restaurants, but all what the country can offer. I can give some example. France the mostly visited country and has the highest number of touristic monuments because we have 36 sites that are UNESCO recognized. So to be touristic country, you need to have monuments and sites. No, the challenge actually of what we need in terms of investments in tourism is that around these sites we need to have all a set of services for the visitor. The visitor comes to see Eiffel Tower, but he will visit most of France. He will come to visit Notre Dame, and he will be able to go all over France to see the products that are suggested to him. So we can have here shared between different companies.
The potential for jobs, if we go deeply, His Excellency, the potential for jobs and employment stretches beyond hotels to the whole tourism supply chain. To excursion providers, craft makers, formers, and many more, all part of the tourism product. You agree that tourism is an economic multiplier for other sectors. If we go the previous conversation deeply, such as healthcare, transportation, manufacturing, food and agriculture, and so on. So what is your idea on that? So tourism is triggering the other sectors and supplying them, so it's creating also the different economic models. So what is your comments on that?
Yes, and a developed economy like the one of France can also be compartmentalized with companies working in tourism and others working in other activities in other sectors. The challenge is to make sure that tourism links more segments of industry and productive industry than it is today. So we need to make sure that every person who comes to visit a country can be seen as a chance for that country, not only because he's going to spend his money on site, but because tomorrow he will be a consumer of products that will come from that country he visited. So we can make sure that every tourist who comes, even after he leaves the country, he will be a consumer of that country he visited, or an investor of that country he visited. So we need to take into consideration each tourist, and this is the challenge with the new technologies, to make sure that each person is considered not only a visitor, but also a customer, a permanent customer of that country.
Also, on the different perspective, on the economic perspective, I'm going to ask how essential it is to drive tourism for foreign direct investment. The pandemic made a lot of countries to focus inward. For instance, domestic tourists may be visiting friends and family, going out for meals together, traveling by car, and staying with friends, or in low category than 5-star. How does that help? It means that we saw in the pandemic all the flights are cut, all the borders are closed, then the people just only stay themselves with their families. So do you think that this will cover the economy in the near future, or all these things have to be settled up back?
Oui, la pandémie.
Yes, the pandemic has changed our habits and our methods of travel because it forced us to stay where we are and to visit our country more and more. So local tourism has been triggered by the pandemic, and as you said, many of our usual customers, they started visiting the families. They went to places of the country that they did not know before. And national tourism has evolved a lot. Instead of seeing people traveling overseas, is it handicap? Is it helping or not? Is it going to disturb international tourism? I think there is always a need to travel, and this need will not disappear because of the pandemic. I think that as we are getting out of this health crisis, there will be a very big growth of tourism internationally, but there are also some behavior that favor local tourism. There are some investment during the pandemic. They will also serve international tourism. We found out in France that they have landscape that we did not value before, some sites we did not know before, and now we'll put them in the market. So national market does not go against international tourism, but it's the basis from which we can suggest new products.
The other question, for some countries, I can observe, because the last time I visit, the last 2 years, I visit more than 25 countries, and then all handshake with the presidents. So some of them has a huge tourism network, but they don't realize that the money is coming through network and the currency, because there is a huge lack of data. So today we spoke the digitalization, we spoke the blockchain, but still some countries are coming very back behind us. So how important is the innovation and technology in this content? So in Europe, you are dating a lot of data. In France, you are working through the data. So what is the importance of this for, as your presidency, what you did, what you observed, sir?
Ça, c'est une question très, très importante.
This is a very important question.
Nous savons, grâce aux statistiques,
We know, thanks to the statistics, the number of tourists come to our country. We know how much time tourists stay in our country. We know approximately where they go.
combien ils dépensent.
We know how much money they spend.
Au-delà, les statistiques
But other than that, statistics will not allow us to know more, even those produced by the government. So the data will give us more accurate knowledge, more powerful, and as a consequence, what we have now as statistic, and thanks to blockchain and to cryptocurrency, we will be able to know not only how much the tourist has spent, but we will also know how much he spent exactly, in which restaurant he had dinner, what did he eat as a meal, in which hotel did he stay first? Did he rent a house? Did he buy some products? Did he do any shopping? Did he take any public transport means? All this data will allow the sector of tourism and the operators of tourism to suggest new products, and the state, the government, will be able to make the investment that investors are looking for in terms of transportation facilities and procedures and hospitality at airports. So the data is not only to monitor what the tourists are doing, but the data is like the necessary items for us for the investment, and also for the private sector that will have very accurate data on the consumers, and also for the public sector, which will be able to build infrastructures and offer services and modify services in order to develop tourism in the country. So the data for us it's the condition for a new policy of tourism, and the countries that have the most data will be the one that will offer the best services to the people.
Excellency. So actually, before our presentation, the CCO of the Ariva made a presentation and explained how the system is working, how secure and how the system is evaluating. Because when we came at back, our parents used the money, and then the credit cards start. After then, maybe the next generation will be dominated through the cryptocurrency. So, what is your take on the rising digital economy, digital currencies, and this new model, the new mode of transactions through the crypto wallets blockchain? UAE is one of the few countries who is supporting and passed law to regulate this industry. Do you think that other governments will follow, or its trend then will fade away with this time? And also, we saw on the presentation, the Ariva, the new model, new technology. What is your comments? So these projects will trigger the tourism industry more, or what is your vision on that, sir?
J'ai été très impressionné par.
I was very fascinated by the presentation because it opens new horizons, and in tourism we need new horizons, even for the sky. We need to imagine how will the travel of the future will look like and the conditions for it. So cryptocurrency, they can spark fear, because we can think what's this kind of payment, is it safe? But it also make us hope that exchange will be easier with low fees, with less and less intermediaries, and with the capacity, thanks to this facility, to travel with very simple procedures and without the restrictions of payment. We can get rid of all the complexities of exchange. So we need definitely adapt us as the public sector, but also you, the private sector. We need to adapt to this evolution of cryptocurrency. The condition is security. Once cryptocurrency is more secure than anything else, it will allow us to prepare and to conduct all the transactions when we are in a country that we visit. I think this system will evolve worldwide. And the countries that will be the most competitive are the one that will allow the use of cryptocurrency. If the country allows all the operators to be integrated in the platform, at this moment for the consumer, it's a significant advantage, because he can use cryptocurrency for all the operations. Of course, for transportation, for his stay, for the restaurants, but also for shopping and services. And thanks to this platform, he can access all the operations. Do we need some regulations? Every time there is some new emerging activities, we need some regulations, which should not be a handicap, but it should contribute to ensure that this money can develop in a way that the consumer will have no doubt that he can use this money safely. So this should be a network like you showed in the presentation of the cryptocurrency.
Excellency. So one of the most important things is the security, as you mentioned. And we spoke about the security on the blockchain, but how about it? Because the world is changing on the other side. For example, the food security. Now, if we turn back from the digital to real life, so the food security or the water security, so all these things, again, the global warming, so all these things will affect the tourism business. So what is your perspective on that?
Oui, souvent.
Oh, yes, most heads of states that I meet, when they want to emerge as touristic countries, they ask what they can do to attract the highest number of visitors, and I always tell them the same thing. It's security that's the condition to have the best tourism policy. Security, of course, it's security for people and properties to ensure that they can move without having fear for themselves or their families, but also food security to be sure that we can consume products that are that will not disrupt our stay. It's also security, the health security to make sure that you can be taken care of in case something happens to you. It's also digital security to be sure that those machines you can use them safely and that you can make the transaction with all the necessary warranties. So everything that contributes to security contributes to development of tourism. I can add security of transportation, not only transportation that you will use to go where you want, but within the timeline and the comfort conditions. The main thing for tourism policy is to have landscape, monuments, and wonderful sites and capacities for comfort. But also security. I can give an example that that is relevant to my country. There was at a certain time some risks for visitors coming from China who had lots of cash. They didn't have cryptocurrency, and they were robbed when they arrived to airports. So my government put in place some control and alert policies, and this type of theft disappeared. And this is important, and it allows tourists to be sure that France is a safe country. So when you are a safe country, it's for physical security, but also food security, health security, and technological security to be sure that all the digital machines works well.
Actually, in the post-COVID era, as our generation is started to face some countries' problem, like the Ukraine. So, as the perspective of the EU, as the perspective of the your vision, one of the most important things is the stability on tourism industry. So, one country have to respect the sovereignty of the other country. So what is your comments on this, especially on the perspective of the Ukraine? Because the topic is the hot, maybe you want to contribute something on that.
Oui, nous vivons.
Yes, we are now living this this conflict because Ukraine is in Europe, and this war that's not only destroying people's life and innocent people are killed, but it's also leading to fear and making movement very complicated. I would like to congratulate the member of the European Parliament because they're trying to end this conflict, and this conflict has effect on tourism. because when there is an international conflict of such magnitude, consumers remain at home and don't travel. War is always stopping everything about exchange, even when it can be relatively safe. So we have now the responsibility to deploy all the efforts to end this conflict and to avoid that it spreads over to other countries or regions. I know that everyone is concerned now. Turkey is concerned. Poland is concerned. The rest of Europe and the Balkan countries are concerned, and there was lots of tourists from Russia and Ukraine that were traveling, but now they can no longer do it. And for all the reasons we can imagine, whether it's for peace or the end of this tragedy for evolution of tourism, we need this war to end.
Excellency. Last two questions. March is the month that celebrates the International Women's Day, which got started in a European country, Netherlands, some 100 years ago. Women in leadership and all walks of life have come a long way, but still a lot needs to be done. As male counterparts, how can we do more to support our other holes more?
Yes, you are right to talk about the role of women in all organizations. I have seen here, seen them taking the floor, and they were very determined even to shape the future. And they help us understand the evolution of blockchain and digital life. Women, they play a role in tourism industry. There are lots of women in service sectors, in hospitality and food and sites visiting. So for many countries that want to develop work of women, tourism is an activity that contributes to make sure that women can play an important role in our relevant countries. I can add one more thing. When you decide to travel somewhere in the world, to book a hotel, it's mostly women who take the decision. It's the woman who convince us, who convince the whole family to go to such destination. If I am operator of tourism, I will look first at a woman and taste to develop my own activities.
As past head of a top tourism destination state, what is your advice to any leaders who is following us, who is keen to develop tourism as their economic engine? What is the one most important action they can take to support this idea? The most and the first action that they have to start.
The most important thing they need to do is to train the people, especially those who will be working at tourism sector. In our countries, in France, we had lots of landscape, monuments, beautiful places, but in every country there is something, somewhere you can go, you can visit. I traveled a lot in the world, but I can tell you that there is no country without landscape, monuments, or sites, or some surprises that they can offer us. So it's not a contest between countries about landscapes or hotels. What will be considered in travel, in a stay, is the quality of the service. So the training, the professional training of the tourism staff is the necessary condition for a country to have a successful policy of tourism. The training of the staff, it's important to meet the needs in hotels, in restaurants, and the sites of visit, and transportation, and the quality in general of hospitality. But it's also a necessary condition for building touristic condition. In France, for example, we have 200,000 companies working in tourism. So it's important to train people to be leaders in tourism. The second thing about tourism, and that was explicit enough, and it's the objective of your conference, is if we need to develop blockchain, if we need to have digitalization in tourism sector, if digital sector will have such importance, we need staff who are capable of using this technology. This is why I think that tourism schools, universities of tourism, and university departments of tourism, they should focus on tourism. Training is the first condition for a successful policy of tourism.
The final question. As a sum, if we combine all these things that we discussed, and you explain and you give the feedback to us, as a president, what you propose for the governments specifically, if we pass back the basic models on the technology, on the cryptocurrency, on the blockchain, what is your advice, especially on the tourism sector, Excellency? Because tourism is the mobility sector. For the mobility, you have to be fast. So what is your advice on that for the governments, that they have to take the consideration on that? Thank you.
If we want to fight against nationalism and if we want to make sure that the world is shared with everyone, if we want to fight global warming, which is a challenge for us, we need to be all able of achieving mobility so we can visit the world. After the pandemic, we asked ourselves the question that transportation, given the prices of energy and how scarce it is becoming, and if it will be able to offer us possibility of travel. The answer is yes. We need to be able to move and travel, but it will cost us higher. So tourism, because transportation will be more expensive. So we need to make sure in our countries, and this is the responsibility of head of states and the government, they need to develop all the conditions to facilitate mobility, facilitate travel, and we need to be very strict about security and also about health precautions and offer guarantees for exchange. And this is where a blockchain can give us some elements that will allow us to lower the fees and give more security and to favor movement and travel. This just for peace. So tourism is not just a sector that will have revenue for operators and the private sector, which is necessary, but it's a political challenge. It's a way of understanding the world and ensuring a better understanding of people living in this world, which we have together. This is why I was happy to participate in your forum, not only to develop an activity that I always supported as a president, which is tourism, because tourism is a means of achieving happiness to consumers and also to share what we have together on this planet.
His Excellency, so we are over on our time. Thank you very much with your participation. So we have valuable guests who get informed about your experiences, and then we have the community who is following us online, approximately 10,000 community members. Thank you very much, Excellency. Next time, we hope to see you again in the near future projects. Thank you very much. So if you want to contribute, the floor is yours.
Merci à vous et je vous souhaite...
Thank you very much, and I wish you success for this meeting. And thank you for having invited me, because I know now a lot more about cryptocurrency and blockchain, and I will make sure to make it evolve in my country, but to use it myself.